Well, thanks again for doing this for us.
Of course, man.
No, that's great. I mean, the album, it's fantastic. Highway Sentinels.
Highway Sentinels.
So how'd you come up with the name?
That was actually David Reese's idea, the singer. And as soon as I heard it, I kind of dug it. It had kind of a retro kind of a vibe, a little of that, Traveling Wilburys, petty somehow thing, but sounded somehow modern. So yeah, it was cool. Yeah, that was his idea entirely. Good name, definitely.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Yeah, but the whole thing's just fantastic.
Well, that's cool, man. I'm glad you really liked it. It was an interesting process, to say the least. Jimmy Waldo, who plays keyboards on the record, Jimmy, as you may know, was a keyboard player in Alcatraz. In fact, is still a keyboard player in Alcatraz. And I have been friends since the mid '80s. We've been writing songs probably since about that time. And, we kind of had this stockpile of songs, which I try to shop around to see if we get somebody to cut it, get a publishing deal. And it was just a tough thing to do. Giles Lavery, who is Jimmy's manager, also manages Alcatraz, band called Girls School, manages David Reese, had heard some of these songs. So let me backtrack. So Jimmy and I had written these songs. So what you're hearing is basically a reimagining of these songs that were written actually decades ago. These were songs that I had written lyrics to. Jimmy and I had written the music. And then we had, at that point, kind of friends, guitar players, musicians come in to play the parts. I mean, on some of the original songs, I mean, there were people like Rowan Roberts, who played guitars with Dio. Harry Cody played in a band called Shotgun Messiah, really good guitar player. Lance is the bass player. He played with Don Henley and Rod Stewart. The guitar player was Keith Howland, who'd been the guitar player in Chicago for many, 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 many years. I got some other great players. So we had these songs. Giles, Jimmy was moving. He was moving sort of from out here in California. He was moving back to Chicago. So Giles was out here one day helping Jimmy move. And he heard some of these tapes of these songs that Jimmy and I had written. And he loved these songs. And he kind of said, hey, they're maybe a little dated sounding. Could you kind of reimagine them, kind of update them? So Jimmy actually had moved back to Chicago, came back out here actually to work with Graham Bonnet on some Alcatraz stuff. This is probably going back at least a year ago, probably more. So he came and stayed at my place in Hollywood for a couple of weeks. And so we basically had these rough tracks, and basically we kind of stripped them down and I kind of went back and sort of played more guitar parts. Jimmy played more keyboard parts. We changed some of the arrangements around and just kind of updated them, reorchestrated them. And Giles said, well, listen, I'm working with David Reese. What if we get David to sing these songs? So I thought, wow, that would be fantastic. So we got him one song. I forget which the first song was. And we sent him the tracks without him ever hearing what the original track was. So the original track that I had was called Lay This Ghost to Rest. And I think that became Face in the Crowd or Hell in a Handbasket. It's so hard for me to sort of listen to the new version and remember what the original was, because this stuff has actually changed around. So he never heard like these original singers or these original melodies or the lyrics. So he said, hey man, here's a track, knock yourself out. And at the end of the day, we sent him, I think, 12 tracks, and he came up with the lyrics and did the vocals. He's in Germany. Jimmy was in Chicago. I'm in LA. Mark Zonder, the drummer, was I think he was in LA. So like everything else in this world, man, everything had to be done long distance. And the interest of expense and kind of flying somewhere where there was sort of maybe a studio. I mean that wasn't going to happen. And that was kind of the process. David came up with some really excellent ideas. Had we all been in the same room, I mean, to be honest, we could have maybe gone a bit deeper in terms of vocal performances. I mean, I thought what he did was great, but if you're in the same room and be like, hey David, tweak that, or but we didn't have that luxury. But still, man, I think this stuff is really great. I'm really proud of this. I mean, I've been writing songs for a long time, and I'm really proud of these songs. I mean, in all honesty, the original songs were really good songs. I mean, there were like really good bones there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great. There were solos that were done originally on these songs, but the songs had changed. So where the original solo may have changed a little, or the bars might have shifted. So there was no way to kind of take these solos and put them in, even though there were some really great solos. Like I said, Harry Cody played an amazing solo. Keith Howland is a fantastic guitar player. Tony Palacios, who's in a Christian band called Guardian, played an amazing solo. But we couldn't really use them, and we kind of wanted to try something new. So feeling so good and positive about the songs, I thought, hey, you know what? Let me reach out to some people I know, to some guys I've interviewed in the past, and let me see if they'd put down some solos. I mean, I felt really good about the tracks, where if they said, no, I don't have the time, I would know that their response was an honest one, that they didn't have the time. And it wasn't because, no, man, these tracks suck, I'm not going to put my name on one of your tracks. You know what I mean? I didn't have to like make excuses for it. And, and I wasn't about to approach these guys, with tracks that I just didn't feel really comfortable with. Granted, they knew me as a journalist, but still, I wouldn't have done that. I would have been embarrassed by it, and I would have put them in a funny spot. And, so I thought, okay, let me reach out to some of my boys. So the first person I reached out to, and I told Giles, the manager, and Jim, I said, hey man, I'm going to reach out to Joe Satriani. They go, oh yeah, Joe's going to really find time to do it. I said, well, man, he's one of the nicer people on the planet. Yeah. I think I've interviewed Joe. He may hold the record for the most times I've interviewed somebody, or if not, he's pretty close. I've probably interviewed him literally 20 times. Wow. I interviewed Joe for his second record, not that first solo record, but the second one. So this is going back to 88, 89, something like that. Yeah. And I interviewed him at least once a year, every time a new record came out, and he typically came out with a new record every year. Pretty prolific dude. And, we had just a really good relationship. And again, I knew that Joe would hear it, and I figured he's so busy, he's always working on something, that he was going to be busy anyway. I thought, what the hell, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I sent him emails, hey, Joe, Steve Rosen, hope you're good, man. I have a monster favor. I just, wrote these songs with my friend Jimmy Waldo. I was just wondering, man, if there's any way, you could play a solo on a song, and I didn't attach the song, that would have been too presumptuous. It's like, then it's like he almost would have been forced into a corner, would have felt obligated. I really didn't want that. And I figured, I'd hear back from him in a week or a month, or, like 2 hours later, he goes, yeah, man, send the track. I'll get it to you in 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
I go, wow, that's unbelievable. So he sent him the track, which turned out to be How to Be Real. And literally 3 weeks to the day, the track came back. And I think he sent a little note, says, hey, man, I hope it's okay. Hope you like it, And I put it on, and I mean, I was just Oh my God. I mean, look, we all know Joe Satriani is an amazing guitar player. We know Joe Satriani doing Joe Satriani music. You know what I mean? These are songs he's written and he knows the changes and he's lived with the solos, you know. And it's like, you know, well, how good really is he? Or how good are any of these guys playing over somebody else's music? And I'm not talking about Joe playing over a Steve Vai song or somebody like, but you know, just kind of a straight up, you know, rock song. I mean, what will he bring to it, you know? And I thought, again, he's going to be so busy. Look, man, nothing he played was going to be bad, but he could have just, I mean, these are not intricate changes, you know, it's, you know, I mean, I'm sure he heard it one time and he heard the changes in his head. So, you know, he could have blown through those changes in 15 minutes and played a thing and it would have been cool. But man, if you listen to it, it starts out with kind of that simple little melodic thing. And then it goes into the, you know, the thing, you know, the kind of little the tapping thing. And then the last thing is kind of a shredding thing. At the very end, you know, he kind of plays that, it's like a vocal answer line. And it's obvious that I mean, he took the time to listen to the song. He listened to the vocals. He listened to the emotion of the song. And I was just totally blown away. You know, I mean, beyond the fact that he's Joe Satriani, you know, beyond the fact that I know the guy is constantly working on stuff, you know, beyond that, what it said to me is that he had enough respect for me to say, yes, I'm going to play on your song and I'm going to play as well as I can. I mean, to me, that was everything, you know, that was like, you know, I mean, you work your entire career. You hope that these guys that you meet over the years have that respect for you, you know, and they think, oh, I'm going to talk to Steve Rosen again, man. And I remember our last interview and he's, you know what I mean? And you hope that's what they think and they have in their heads, you know. But you never know. They might say, oh, that dickhead, I got to talk to him again. Okay. You know, I mean, you don't know. But I mean, it was just amazing. You know, I was just so blown away. And, you know, it was like, it was, in fact, none of them said, oh man, you know, yeah. And can you please let me hear it when it's done? And it's like, that was so cool, only because as good as it might've been, you know, and Jimmy Waldo, you know, did the engineering, man, and the solos sound amazing because they were recorded so incredibly. I mean, his guitar sounds are amazing. I mean, you would have had to have butchered the thing to have made it not work, you know. Yeah. But Jimmy did an amazing job on, you know, inserting that solo, inserting all the solos. But, you know, the fact that, you know, if one of the guys wanted to hear it, it'd be like, of course, you know, I'd let you hear it. And it's as good as it might have been, you know, they might have been used to hearing stuff a certain way, or, you know, maybe Joe wanted the solo louder, or he wanted, you know, more delay on it. You know what I mean? Again, it was one of those things that the best intentions of mice and men oftentimes go astray, you know? In other words, as much as you wanted them to love it and have it be perfect, you knew that, you know, maybe they were going to find something. And, you know, it could have been an ongoing process. You know, we did something and they hear go, well, you know, the delay's too long. And, you know, but thank God none of those guys did that. They're all just down for doing solos. And, you know, so it was amazing. I reached out to Paul Gilbert, again, somebody I'd known for many, many years. And again, you know, I mean, as well as I knew Joe, I mean, it's not like we were buddies. It's not like we would correspond once or twice a year just to say hello. You know, it wasn't that relationship. It was based solely on, you know, journalist and interviewee. And same with Paul. You know, we'd met several times and he was always very cordial. And I thought, what the hell? So I reached out to him and goes, yeah, man, absolutely. And Paul, you know, played a blazing solo over a song called I'm a Loser. And in fact, he said, yeah, man, he said, some of those changes, even though they were really simple, they weren't the kinds of changes he would write. And he says, yeah, man, I really had to kind of bend some notes, you know, to get over those changes and kind of stuff, you know. which is great. I mean, pushing Paul Gilbert into any kind of, you know,
That's right.
area where he hadn't ventured as a guitar player was great.
Yeah.
Bumblefoot, who's
Oh,
just one of the
amazing.
nicest people who's ever lived, and just one of the most unbelievable guitar players. He played an amazing solo in a Hell in a Handbasket.
Yeah.
And if you listen to it, some of those parts are double tracked, and they might even be triple track. So he played, and then he went back and played harmonies. I mean, come on, man, that takes some time. I mean,
That's
even for him, you know what I mean? So some thought was given to the solo he played, and I think thought was given to all these solos. You know, who else here? Matt Heafy from Trivium played a great solo, a little more raucous. Matt played on Afterlife. Afterlife was the name of the Blackthorn record, which was sort of the band that Jimmy had with Graham Bonnet post Alcatraz.
Okay.
Bob Kulick was a guitar player in that band. Bob has passed away. In fact, there's a video that just came out for Afterlife, and there's a nice little, you know, R.I.P. to Bob. So basically, that was a song originally. That song is pretty much the song that appears on the Afterlife record. That was a song that I wrote with Graham. I had the music, and then Graham and I wrote lyrics. And then Bob interpreted it and added some little, you know, not little, but added, you know, little lines and little accents and things. But those lyrics and stuff were already written, and those melodies. And then Matt came in and, you know, burned through that solo, which I thought was an amazing solo. Joe Stump, who's the guitar player in Alcatraz at the moment, played an amazing solo on a song called Tortured Soul. That was a song that Jimmy and I wrote. Actually, Jimmy started, he had like the keyboard parts, and he and I sort of, in other words, this one was written specifically for the record. This wasn't something Jimmy and I had done. Okay. And so we just communicated, you know, using, I forget which kind of stuff Jimmy uses, Pro Tools like gear, you know. Yeah. So, you know, he'd put up the track, he had the drums, and, you know, he'd send me the keyboard idea. So he showed me, you know, because I'm really bad at this stuff, and he just showed me how to, you know, press that button and you can play some guitar parts. So I pressed the button and I play some guitar parts that he could listen to, you know, and then I heard some, you know, some interesting changes for what became, I think, the B section and maybe the chorus. You know, it was like a really dark song. And David, you know, said, "Hey man, dark song, think dark," which is how he came up with Tortured Soul.
Actually, I wrote that down here as well. It's probably one of the heaviest riffs on the album.
It's pretty freaking heavy, yeah, you know, and that's funny because that started with Jimmy's keyboard, you know. Yeah, absolutely. Tracy Guns just plays on a song called "Facing the Crowd." Yeah, a little bit of that, you know, bluesy, yeah, Guns N' Roses kind of a thing, you know. Mike Flintz is the guitar player in a band called Riot. Fairly big band. They're pretty big in Europe. He's an unbelievable guitar player. Has a little bit of that classic rock thing, has a little bit of that Clapton thing. Victim of the Night was a song that was done originally by, and my brain escapes me. That was the only song that we didn't write. And the reason we did that is that David Reese actually sang on a version of this. I don't know if he sang the final version with this band who kind of were best known for doing this song, but he played. He sang on a version of it. And so Giles thought, "Hey, let's do Victim of the Night." David knows the song; he sings it great, and he did. He sang that great. I Don't Care Anymore. Herman Frank from Accept played a great solo. I didn't get Herman. That was I think Giles reached out to him. We Won't Be Forgotten is another Blackthorn song. Was on that first Blackthorn record. That's Bob Kulick's song. I had nothing to do with that song. Okay. And a Japanese guitar player named Nozumo Wakai wrote that. Nozumo is a pretty big guitar player in Japan, and Jimmy knew him because Alcatraz had toured in Europe. I guess he befriended Nozumo, and Nozumo play some pretty shreddy kind of stuff.
Mm.
So yeah, and oh, and last but not least, this amazing guitar player we got, man, and I wasn't sure if this guy was going to do it, but I reached out to him. This guy named Steve Rosen. He said, "Steve, would you play a solo on this song?" I said, well, "I don't know, man. I need to see the checkbook, and it's got to be the right kind of song. And I don't want to embarrass any of these other solo players you have." So I thought, I'm not a solo player by any stretch of the imagination. I don't play. Not that I can play anything like these guys, but I don't play anything like these guys. I don't have that facility, I don't have this, I didn't have anything like that. So I thought, well, I didn't think, I mean, I kind of, retreated to the place where I felt comfortable. And I wanted to put a solo on there. I wanted to say, yeah, man, I'm on a solo with, Paul Gilbert and Joe Satriani, So, it came out being, how can I describe it? A little bit like Steve Vai meets David Gilmour, just like a few notes, kind of slinky stuff, a little more lyrical. And I'm really happy with the solo, man. I just thought it came out so great. The instrumental section, the changes are a little quirky sounding. So yeah, man, I was really happy with it. And then I typically play, because a lot of the original, some of the original rhythm parts are there on those original songs Jimmy and I wrote. And like I said, I went in and kind of replayed some parts or came up with different voicings or different versions. So I basically play rhythm on most of these songs. But again, a lot of them are sort of strengthened by some other guitar players. There's a guitar player named Donnie Jones, who's a friend of Jimmy's. He's an unbelievable guitar player. So, if my timing was a little bit suspect, Donnie went in there and, just kind of nailed that stuff. And yeah, so that's kind of the story of Highway Sentinels. The album's called Awaiting Fire, which is my title.
Yep.
And yeah, man, it's on a label called Louder Than Loud. And I think it's due out any day. I'm not sure if it's actually out yet.
Okay.
And man, I just hope that it gets a little bit of acceptance out there. I mean, I think it's a really good record.
Yeah.
You seem to dig it. I mean, I think it brings in a little of that kind of that classic '80s rock, and it's a little modern sounding. And man, I think it's a good record. And if nothing else, just to hear these guys solo over these kinds of songs, I think it's pretty fantastic. So,
like I said at the start, they're all great songs, and the artist you have on each track, really fits the song as well.
Yeah. Oh, cool, man. Yeah. Nice.
Even like the one you do, Not Too Late. Some of the changes that really interesting. And it's probably one of the hardest ones, I'd say, to solo over because of the changes. But yeah, you did a great job.
Oh, well, cool, man. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you're able to hear all the songs. Yeah, Not Too Late was actually originally a song called Naked. And yeah, it was actually sung by a female. It was actually a song that I was trying to get to Heart. I thought it would have been a perfect song for Heart. And but I can't even remember if I even got that to them or their publisher, but they passed or they never heard it. I'm not sure. But I always really loved that song. And yeah, those changes, they are probably some of the deeper changes of any song on the record, Yeah. I kind of love it. I mean, the chorus is kind of like a really long chorus, which I kind of love. I mean, it's kind of, really different. And then, yeah, that little solo section in there, which some of those changes I think were on the original, but they were kind of tweaked a little bit. And then my friend Ron De La Vega played bass on that. And he just played these really great notes over these changes, man, just got these really cool kind of weird little kind of notes over the changes, made it sound a little outside. Yeah, man. So, so we'll see. I mean, Jimmy keeps joking with me. He says, "Hey man, you better get ready to tour."
Yeah.
Hey man, just put me on the stage. You can put me at the back of the stage. I'll sit there with my guitar unplugged. I just want to be there, let's see, somebody else can play and I'll come out, I'll do my one solo and I'll stand in the corner. But, so
Oh, they're great. So is this your first album that you've recorded playing guitar?
that's a good question. I suppose it is. I've recorded, lots and lots of songs,
Yeah.
but never an album. I was recording songs, a lot of these demos that Jimmy and I did, I was playing guitars on them, but never as an album or anything like that. Yeah, I suppose it is.
Yeah.
The first record, I've ever recorded, as an album. I've had a few songs on albums.
Yeah.
Just as a writer, I wasn't playing it all. Jimmy and I also wrote a world music project called Spirit Nation. This is probably, God, 2000. It goes back a while. And we actually got a deal on V2 Records, which was Richard Branson's label. I wrote all those songs with Jimmy, but I didn't play any guitars. Actually, I think I played guitar in one. So I basically wrote an album. It was actually two Spirit Nation records. Wrote two records, but no, never played songs on an entire record. No. Yeah. It was cool, man. It was fun. I must admit. It was not easy doing stuff long distance, but it was pretty fun, especially hearing these guys solo over these songs. It was like, oh my God.
So with the Bumblefoot track, it sounds like he's using the fretless, the double neck guitar. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Exactly. I was hoping he was going to do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, that's his thing.
Yeah. That's really cool.
A fretless guitar, a fretless bass is very difficult to play. A violin is the most difficult instrument there is.
Yep.
The intonation, because it's such a small neck, people tell you it's a trumpet, a trombone, French. Violin is the hardest instrument there is to play.
It is.
So a fretless guitar, I'm not saying it's more difficult than a violin. It probably isn't, because the neck is probably bigger and it's probably more forgiving in terms of intonation. But still, you could put a fretless guitar in the hands of a really, really, really good guitar player, and I don't think he would, he wouldn't have a clue what to do. Exactly. But yeah, Bumblefoot, yeah, man, that's his thing. Yeah. Yeah, I thought he played great. It was so cool. And the thing that's cool is, a lot of these guys, in fact, probably all of them, have their own home studios. So, they could kind of, pop in and, click on record and, kind of go. So, that was cool.
Even your rhythm tracks are really cool as well.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, I was, it's funny. I always thought I was a better songwriter than I was a journalist. I honestly, truly believe that. Yeah. That's honestly, that's what I always wanted to do. I wanted to be a songwriter. Well, I wanted to play in a band. Yes. And I realized, well, that's probably not going to happen, But you know what? I think I'm a good enough songwriter. I think I could, I could get a publishing deal. I could write songs for bands. I think I could do that. And I tried, and man, I could never. I had successes here and there, but I could just never make a living at it. But getting back to your comment, I thought I was a really good songwriter, and I thought these were good songs. The original versions were good songs, and I thought, hey, you know what? Reimagining these songs, reorchestrating them, they're going to sound like good songs. They're going to be good songs. I tried to think. I've always tried to think melodically, and come up with cool little riffs and things and changes, and so so hopefully people pick up on the fact that these are good songs and good vocals and some good guitar playing, and yeah, man, I mean, the label, as you know, has already put out 3 videos.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to Giles, and they're going to be putting out at least 3 more. So that's great. I mean, you know, so they're trying to, you know, get the word out there and get it marketed and stuff.
Yeah, definitely great songs. So with the band, I know you spoke about David Reese on vocals and yourself on guitar. How about the bass player? Is it Donnie Van Steven? Yeah, so where's he from?
I think Donnie was also in Riot.
Oh, okay.
Giles, the manager, somehow knew them, or Giles manages various bands. Maybe one of the bands toured with Riot, perhaps. I'm not sure, but somehow he knew Mike and Donnie, both really excellent musicians. I mean, I really like Mike's guitar playing. He is a really, really good guitar player. You know, again, he's got kind of that Clapton thing, which I really dug. Yeah, man, the playing on it, I mean, is great. You know, Mark Zonder, the drummer, played in Fate's Warning.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know Fate's Warning. They're kind of a prog band, you know. I'm trying to think of the other guitar player.
Was it Kurt Anderson?
No, Kurt was actually one of my buddies.
Okay.
Yeah, the guitar player I'm trying to think of isn't on the record. He was in Fate's Warning. I was trying to think of his name. Yeah, Kurt is actually a buddy of mine. No, that's okay. No, Kurt is a monster guitar player. I mean, he's an unbelievable guitar player. In fact, Kurt played, he did basically all of the guitars on We Won't Be Forgotten. We couldn't use the original track of We Won't Be Forgotten from Blackthorn. Somehow Jimmy couldn't find, you know, the multi-track of it, you know, and, you know, to try to, you know, to strip off the vocals and use it, the existing track would have been ridiculous. It would have sounded like garbage. So Kurt sat there and listened to all the guitars, and he played every guitar. I think there's some slide or some whammy on there, but he did an unbelievable job.
But sounds great. The overall production of it as well sounds great.
Yeah, no, it came out really good. I mean, you know, Jimmy, my friend Jimmy's a very talented guy, you know. He basically, you know, engineered and kind of produced everything, mixed everything. I think he has some help from Donnie Jones, the very talented guy. But basically, you know, it was all done it, you know, on his gear at home. I mean, he's got some really good gear, you know. But yeah, he basically did it himself. Yeah, I think it sounds great.
You must be a journalist, because you pretty much covered all my questions I had written down here about each track.
Yeah, man. I figured I'd just ramble here.
I can't wait to see you guys tour it, hopefully.
Oh yeah, I mean, that would be just that would be a dream come true. I'd probably be so freaking nervous, man. I probably couldn't play 3 notes, and you know, but you know, yeah, that'd be unbelievable. Like even you know, like a small tour. Yeah, it's playing a couple of places. You know what I mean? Just to say I was able to play, you know, my music or music I was involved in.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, on stage. You know what I mean? As opposed to playing in a top, you know, as opposed to playing a Tom Petty song. You know what I mean? Playing your own music. I mean, it must be just an unbelievable feeling. Yeah. Really. Just in closing, I'm going to jump subjects for 1 second here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. So my book, which we've talked about before, Tone Chaser, fingers crossed. It looks like we're nearing the finish line. And if the world doesn't fall apart in the next 8 to 10 weeks, and, you know, boats continue to float on the ocean, and, you know, the world keeps turning in the right direction, I hope to have the books in hand. I would say the 1st or 2nd week of September.
Okay.
Awesome. You know, and I know that people who have been following, you know, me may be putting notices up on some of the Van Halen sites. I know that some of you are saying, well, you said it was going to be here in April, and you said it was going to be here in June, and then it was July, and
Yeah.
I mean, the reality was, man, I honestly thought that the book would be done, and the book would be done in my hands like by April or May. I thought once a printer had a book, yeah, man, yeah, I turn around in 2 weeks. Well, it's not like that. Without paper shortages in this country, which are severe. I mean, there is no paper for book printing. The COVID thing, supply chain issues, right? The ports of LA being, inundated, the ships, and it's much better now.
Yeah.
But all that stuff just started accumulating, and life is what it is. I mean, if I could have made it happen any sooner, trust me, nobody wants this book out more than me. I can tell you that. So, I mean, I get I get emails from people saying, "Hey, man, when's the book coming out? Just curious, and people are very polite, man, and they've been understanding." And I try to explain to them a little bit what's going on. And hey, man, the book's gonna be here, end of August, early September. And people are really cool. Some people were annoyed, and I mean, there's nothing I can do. I said, hey, man, you want your money back? I'll give you your money back. It's like when you I guess I look at it, when you prepay something. In my mind, you just kind of forget about it. And then one day, oh my God, there's that book that I paid for,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how I look at things. I mean, look, if it was, $500 you had prepaid for something, and 6 months later that thing wasn't, there's like $500. Hey man, where's my where's my computer? Where's my thing? But it's like 35, but 35, or for you guys it's a little more. I get that, but $47 if you're in this country, it's like, look, I get $47 is $47. It's groceries, but I'm not going to rip you off. I'm not going to steal your $47. It's like, so anyway. So anybody who's watching, or you put this out there, your book will be there. I've added 3 chapters, man. I've added some other little things. I've added some graphic stuff. You're going to see the book. I swear to God, the book is 3 inches thick. It's really good. I mean, I feel really good about these songs. I feel unbelievably good about the book.
Yeah.
I mean, it was every great phrase and paragraph I could write, and I think you're going to come away with it, understanding Edward much more. My book, covers stuff that you have not read in any other Van Halen book.
Yeah.
So, I believe at the end of the day, you have the book in your hand, you're gonna get to the last page and you're gonna go, wow, yeah, this is worth waiting for. I'm glad I waited patiently.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my hope for all the readers out there.
So. Yeah. I saw the little promo that you got with Eddie playing on one of the songs that you jammed along to.
Oh yeah, you heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool. That originally, that graphic was part of I think it was probably about a minute. There was a short window there where I was involved with some people, and we were pitching I guess it would have been more of a documentary about Edward to some film companies. I mean, really big, online companies. I mean, Netflix types of people, couldn't get anybody to bite. But this was a promo that actually the director who's going to direct it put together, that was kind of a pitch promo that was going to be shown to these potential film companies, investors.
Yeah.
And so basically it just kind of sat there. So I reached out to him one day. I said, hey man, listen, do you think I could use a little piece of that as a promo for my book? And this guy, in fact, I'm going to tell you, say his name, Tim Calandrello. Tim has actually worked with Steven Spielberg. I mean, Tim is an incredibly gifted guy. He's also one of the nicest people you could ever meet. And he said, sure, man, sure, whatever you want to do. And I said, listen, Tim, because the original video already had music on it. I said, listen, can you strip off the music? I've got this little, I think it was only about 10 seconds. I have this 10-second little snippet of Edward playing guitar over one of my songs at my house. If I got this to you in the right format, could you dump that in there? He goes, yeah, man, no problem. So he cut down the video, dumped in that little piece of music, and the voice you hear is Edward, and that's taken from one of my interviews. I know the quality is not amazing because it was kind of, the audio was there, the voice, and then the music was kind of put in anyway. But that's when Ed says, I'm a tone chaser, and that's actually one of the last interviews I did with him. I had sent Tim a bunch of bulk interviews. He pulled out that quote because I remember Ed talking about tone chaser. I go, Tim, listen to that one section, which happens at 23 minutes on the original cassette. Ed calls himself a tone chaser. I think that's amazing. Yeah. So tone chaser was actually the audio on the original promo video that was going to be sent to these film companies.
Oh, wow.
So I thought, oh my God, Ed is saying I'm a tone chaser. Let me put this little piece of music of Ed playing guitar on one of my songs. And anyway, that's what that was. And Ed, it's not Ed, that car driving is up on Mulholland. Mulholland Drive is a very famous winding street that goes right by Edward's house. Okay. And in the book, I must mention Mulholland Drive. Probably 15 times. Yeah. Ed and I drove on it. Ed probably drove on it every day when he was going somewhere. It was like a main street that you had to take to go anywhere. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was Tim's idea to shoot it up on Mulholland, and it's kind of grainy, and the book cover, Ed's kind of floating. Tim kind of did that. I just thought it was fantastic. I just really loved it. And I thought, Van Halen fans would love it. Yeah. It's a little hard to hear the music that Ed's playing over, but I just thought it was one of those things, and I talk about it so many times in the book. Look, we all know that Edward Van Halen was an extraordinary guitar player. He was amazing because he wrote all those Van Halen songs, and he was soloing over songs he wrote. But and I know that he was amazing, if you've heard him, back in the cover days, the pre, Van Halen days, or pre, record label days, when he was doing ZZ Top songs and Bad Company, and he was amazing at copying those. But hearing him kind of play over one of my songs, because I knew the song so intimately, and I knew the changes, and to hear him and to sit there and watch him, and this was instantaneous with him. I think he maybe heard the song once, and he just knew it. He just knew it. Again, they weren't very difficult changes, but he understood the song perfectly. And I'm sitting there, I'm in my living room, and he's playing, and I'm going, oh Jesus God, this is like, he became even greater than I thought he was. Yeah. And I write an entire chapter about him coming over that night. I didn't even know he was coming over. There's a knock at the door, and he comes in. He says, hey man, what's going on? And I was there with my friend, in fact, Ron De La Vega. Ron, who's playing bass on Not Too Late, right? Yeah. This amazing bass player. Ron is playing keyboards. And Ed comes in, and he sees, I mean, you can tell we're writing, you know, and he's kind of sitting on the couch. And I don't want to give away the whole book, but I just have to tell this little bit of story, you know. And you know, he says, hey man, you know, could I play? I go, no, Ed, you know, I'm not going to let you play. I mean, like Edward Van Halen. So, you know, I mean, Ed plays guitar 23 hours a day. So I figured the last thing he'd want to do, you know, so that's why I didn't say, hey, Ed, do you want to play? I couldn't bring myself to do that. So she said, hey man, can I play? So, you know, I was playing, and I think I might've been plugged into a little amp. I don't know, man, but I sounded like shit. Yeah, my guitar, he plugs in and he sounds like Ed. And all of a sudden, you know, and you know, then he's looking at the song and he's going, oh, you know, instead of the verse going like this, and he starts playing these little bits, and it's for a brief moment, man, while he was there that night, I could look inside his head and go, oh my God, that's how he thinks as a not necessarily a guitar player, because it was a guitar player, but as a songwriter and an orchestrator and an arranger. You know, how he builds his verses and how he, you know, ties the bits together. I mean, I saw it, man. I was there. I watched him. And this song that he played over, again, it was a good song. He plays a couple of these little parts, and all of a sudden the song is like, bam! It's like this song. It's like, it's this life that in 10,000 years I could never have conceptualized that. And the parts, it's not that they were intricate parts, they were just so beautiful and so perfect. And so I write about that, and there's a lot more that happened that night. And it's just amazing. So, you know, I thought people would just get off kind of hearing Ed, you know, soloing over this, you know, this song that this guy, Steve Rosen, wrote, you know, and yeah, it's just, I just thought it was just so amazing. I mean, it's one of my favorite chapters, one of my favorite moments, you know,
that's incredible.
ever being with him. I mean, having him play on one of my songs, you know, man, it's like, you know, that's fantasy stuff. So.
Oh yeah. So did you ever think about putting like a little snippet on this album?
I suppose I could have. Actually, that song was actually a song called "Mortal Man." That was actually, it was actually a pretty good song. I mean, the original demo was just it was a 4-track Fostex that we were recording on, that Ron, my friend Ron, was doing, and he was great. Again, man, I did. It was my Fostex, but I didn't know how to, you know, I could barely turn the thing on, you know, so you had to bounce stuff. I didn't know how to do that. But, you know, yeah, we could have redone those tracks. And honestly, what I could have done is, I suppose I could have interpreted Ed's guitar parts and kind of replay his parts. I mean, yeah, putting his actual parts on there, you know, you know what would have happened? I think hardcore Van Halen fans would go, oh my God, this is another song that we get to hear Ed on. And they would have been blown away. Yeah. You know, Edward playing my guitar, he's not playing his guitar now, and he's playing through a little, I don't know, maybe it had like a little Fender, or it might have been even going through like a little board or direct, you know, but he's, you know, so he's playing my guitar. It was a decent guitar, and I talk about it. It was an older Strat. You know, basically, you know, it was nothing great. It wasn't his gear. It wasn't his guitar with his pickups and his amps, you know. So he's playing basically my guitar going through, you know, this little amp on one of my songs. And they would have gone, hardcore fans would have gone, oh my God, listen to what he's doing. Listen to those accents. Because people would have recognized his approach in other Van Halen songs. I mean, he did some stuff that sounded, it sounded like other things that he did in other Van Halen songs, because it was Eddie Van Halen. And my song doesn't sound like a Van Halen song. I couldn't write like him. But as a guitar player, and the way he thinks, just his accents, and, you know, it's like you go, oh my God, that's like Ed, but it's not Ed. So I think hardcore Van Halen fans would have been blown away.
Yeah.
A lot of guys would have said, oh, Rosen, Ed's gone and you're putting that on your record, and it's like, I would have been like this negative thing. And yet, I tell you, man, those guys ruin it for everybody else, because to hear that stuff, even though not one syllable is true, the idea of having those kinds of, it's just not, you know what I mean? It just wouldn't have been worth it to go through that, and they say you're not supposed to read your own press, and I try not to do that, but inevitably, something's going to leak through, and and again, I mean, I know people are going to read this book and they're going to go, you're a liar, that never happened, or you're just, you weren't friends with Ed, or, hey, I get that you can't please everybody
That's right.
all the time, but something like that, I mean, I know it is all me, it was all true, and so somebody says that, you just try to ignore that, because I mean, I know what the truth is.
I mean, you've got the tapes to prove it.
Yeah, well, I've got pictures.
Yeah.
Pictures don't lie,
Right.
and I know we've probably gone over some of the same terrain here, but I mean, the book is really honest.
Yeah.
Honest to the point where it probably will piss some people off. I'm honest in my portrayal of myself in that book as well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff I'd rather not have written about, but hey, that's not what the book was. I gotta be honest with everybody, including myself. So
hopefully, if there's an audio version of this book, people can hear it as well. He's playing
an audio version, yeah, man. And I've thought a lot about that, and I was trying to figure out. Typically, an audio version is done with, some kind of a fiction novel, Tom Clancy, and somebody's reading a Tom Clancy novel. But what I was trying to figure out, so in my book, there's my voice. When I say my voice, I'm writing in first person, so it's me. But then there's Edward's voice, right? A lot of Edward's, his exact words, So how would you do that? And then somebody suggested, well, you probably have to have at least two people doing the audio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's stuff where there's straight interviews, and I went over to Ed's and I did an interview with him for a Guitar World, so my question. So Ed, when did you start the Fair Warning record? And then Ed, we started it, 3 weeks ago. So, I mean, I suppose you could have, one person, reading all of that. It just seems really confusing to me, because there's other bits in here where the voice, and I don't want to give it away, but where there's kind of like a person who's not me really, and not Ed. This person is kind of looking down on this thing happening between this guy, Steve Rosen, and this guy, Edward Van Halen, and he can see everything, and he's commenting. So it's almost like there's a third person in there. You know what I mean? So do you have three people doing that? I mean, I suppose you could. I just think it would take a long time to do because the book is so fucking long. I mean, it's twice the length of typical books. Somebody suggested, hey man, why don't you get David Lee Roth to do it?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
And I thought, you know what? On any given day, Dave, you know what I mean? I mean, because it's hard to know what Dave's thinking about. It's like he might want to do it. You know what I mean? It's like, to be involved in it. And some of the things in there that Ed says about Dave, but maybe Dave might get off on reading what Edward says and him actually reading the words. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm just thinking out loud here. But and again, the other kind of book I wanted to do, which I described as an enhanced audio, would be one where there'll be somebody reading bits of it, but the parts in the book that they're basically quotes from Ed would actually be the actual audio.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So you'd hear Ed actually talking, you know, or certain excerpts of it, you know.
I think that would work really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be pretty amazing. I mean, you know, because of what I've tried to do is I've really tried to actually describe how Ed talks and his speech patterns, and you know, so you know, I mean, most people have heard Ed talk because they've heard him on a YouTube thing or something. But you know, so I tried to go into that whole thing anyway. So that's my little side trip about my book. But be looking for it. It's coming, people.
I can't wait for everyone to hear it, the album, and get the book as well.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, you're on my list, buddy.
Yep, yeah, for sure.
You're one of the. In fact, you're the only multiple book dude in Australia.
Oh, good. No, I can't wait.
Yeah, I've actually had a fair amount. I mean, I don't know, maybe a dozen orders from Australia.
Okay.
And yeah, had a few.
Well, if you need a place to crash, you're welcome here.
Well, cool, man. Yeah.
Well,
so, well, cool, man. I hope I got covered everything for you. Yeah,
definitely. We've got all things covered with the album, the behind the scenes. So no, it's great. Thank you.
Cool, man. So, let's talk again when you have this book, and again, hopefully, man. I'm hoping. I really hope the first or second week of September at the latest. The thing, that's what I'm hoping. Yeah, man. So after you get the book, you read it, and we'll talk again.
Yeah, for sure. No, I can't wait.
Unless you don't like the book, in which case, don't call me.
No, I'm sure I will.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks.
Well, cool, man. So you take care of yourself.
Yep. No, I really appreciate your time, and hopefully, we'll catch up real soon to talk about the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to you later, Adam.
All right. I'll see you then.
Bye, buddy. Bye.